This is ILTV on the hour, bringing you the biggest stories from Israel and the Middle East. I'm Shush Bedrosian, and today is day 655 of the war in Gaza. Let's get into all the top headlines at this hour. We begin with the IDF tanks that officially entered the Hamas Stronghold city of Deir al-Balah, a location in central Gaza where IDF troops have not been on the ground yet. The IDF confirms its efforts into the city were spearheaded by the Golani Infantry Brigade, accompanied by tanks and combat engineers. Meanwhile, artillery and airstrikes took place overnight, and this morning, the new IDF ground expansion comes as the U.S. and Israel work to pressure Hamas into making a deal, as they still have not yet responded to the ceasefire and hostage proposal that was delivered to them last week. Reports say Hamas's leadership is waiting from the response of the military wing inside of Gaza. Meanwhile, American officials criticize the group for delaying their response as their own people inside the enclave continue to die each and every day they do not respond. And heartbreak here in Israel as 2 IDF soldiers were killed inside of the Gaza Strip. IDF reservist Sergeant Major Vladimir Loza fell in combat operations with the 5th Brigade in Rafah. An initial IDF probe finds Loza was killed after a blast caused a building to collapse, suspecting there was an explosive device planted inside. The 36-year-old from Ashkelon leaves behind his wife and young daughter. The IDF also announced the death of 19-year-old Staff Sergeant Amit Cohen from Holon from the Golani Brigade. Initial reports indicate he was killed during another explosion inside of Khan Yunis. He leaves behind his parents and his 2 siblings. Joining us now to discuss these latest developments, these really tragic developments as well, is ILTV correspondent David Mattlin. David, let's first discuss, these 2 troops that were killed in explosions. We've seen, recently many IDF soldiers killed in explosions inside of buildings. Tell me what the reason is for this.
First of all, in these 2, they really exemplify the span of Israeli society deployed in there. You have one guy who's 19, who's really still in the regular army, very young, obviously in all regards, and then you have this 36-year-old reservist, Vladimir. This is again the bulk of the people who are out there, a family man. So the entire army really on display, unfortunately, from end to end in this set of tragedies. So the explosives, this has been a big part of going in to the Gaza Strip. Has been an engineering campaign. Really, this has been an unprecedented war against an entrenched and highly engineered enemy here, with the tunnel complexes, traps, really every strategic structure in Gaza being on top of the most strategic and sensitive sites for Hamas, the Islamic Jihad, and whoever else is in there fighting the IDF at this point. So engineering and heavy explosives have been a part of this all along the way. There were some major incidents early on in the war. My battalion actually known to be infamously, unfortunately, for taking the most casualties in one day when buildings collapsed on top of our guys when explosives went off. So this is something that really all the fighting forces in Gaza know at this point, of the dangers of either now IEDs roadside or just having high explosives around and dealing with these engineering combat scenarios.
Sure, and we know that more IDF soldiers are actually going on the ground inside of the central city in Gaza, Deir al-Balah. It's the first time these troops are on the ground with tanks, as we reported earlier on. Tell me what the scene is like inside of Deir al-Balah right now. When the IDF goes into a new city they have not operated in yet, what are the initial moves that they make?
Well, first, and one that the IDF is tripling, quadrupling down on today, are these evacuation warnings and notices that go out to the population there. Deir al-Balah, because it hasn't had a major ground incursion yet in the war, for all the reasons that there may be hostages inside we can touch on, but many Palestinians are inside this city. In fact, anywhere between 50 to 80,000 are known to have come as refugees from elsewhere in the enclave, since this was a safer zone that hadn't been attacked yet. So now all these people are on the move. The first phase of this is to try to clear that civilian population out of the way as much as possible. All the warnings given, leaflets dropped, time given for them to evacuate. And by the UN's own account, up to 80,000 have moved out of this area, this southeastern part in particular of Deir al-Balah, where the IDF is making its push in. And when you go into an area like this, where you've given time for the civilian population to move out, It's the tanks, it's the infantry, it's aerial assets at their disposal. Look, they're very careful, and they're taking on anyone who's left behind at this point, who's there to resist the entrance of IDF forces. It's a very coordinated operation at this point. One the IDF has a lot of experience doing, tackling sort of block by block, many times tunnel by tunnel, as they move into these as yet uninvaded parts of Gaza.
I want to ask you specifically that once these troops are fully on the ground in Deir al-Balah, will it be more combat style situations and more of an urban setting there? You know, and I want to tell our viewers, back in February in Deir al-Balah, there were Israeli hostages that were actually released in that city. And what was so striking about those releases, these makeshift ceremonies Hamas put on, is the fact that buildings were actually still intact, still standing inside of that city. Can you explain to me what the fighting might look like there?
Now, there's supposedly, I'll back up and say, the visuals, yes, we got multiple, I think it's at least three hostage handoffs. We're in Deir al-Balah. And again, I've been up there, I've been up close in these areas. It's one of these cities that looks untouched from the outside. Obviously, there's damage there. There have been airstrikes over the time, but this is a largely intact urban center. So yes, that's Deir al-Balah at this point. Now, inside that, who's utilized that the most, not only these people coming in for refuge from elsewhere, Hamas, it's supposed to be an entire Hamas battalion at this point, deployed inside Deir al-Balah here, still largely intact. Their capabilities massively eroded and, of course, cut off from whatever used to be the major network of brigades and battalions of Hamas across Gaza. Now there's an isolated group in here, but nonetheless one that is still considered to be largely intact. We could be talking thousands of armed Hamas fighters at this point. So that's the nature of what the IDF is going up against in there. And so it could be, we could see scenes of a return to the early phases of the war, maybe say the first 6 months, post-October 7th, where we saw a lot more sort of military confrontations going on versus these small guerrilla IED hit-and-run sort of sniping moves that we've seen of the recent campaign in months. Deir al-Balah could present something we haven't seen in quite some time.
David, thank you so much for your analysis on this as we continue to follow all the developing news out of Gaza. Appreciate it. And we have new information that an American citizen was killed inside of the violent clashes in Syria against the Druze community. Joining us now to discuss is Dr. Ghassan Diab, a Lebanese Druze activist and director of Demokrattia Center for Research and Strategic Studies in Washington. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
First off, tell me what it's been like for you to see this massacre unfold. You're in the United States and you're seeing this Druze community under attack. We also know that an American citizen was part of this massacre. He was executed with some of his family members. It's a truly devastating thing. Not only that, it was put on social media. We will not show it because of how graphic the video is. But tell me what it's like to live in the U.S. while all of this is unfolding.
I've always been sympathetic when it turns to the Holocaust. I've heard and seen a lot about how much the Jewish people suffered in the Holocaust. But now I'm witnessing a new Holocaust, the new Holocaust against the Druze people. And I totally understand what does it mean when you call for help and no one answers your call. This is exactly what's happening. Genocide, ethnic cleansing, anything to talk about. People killed just as the Nazi troops killed the Jews just because they are Jewish. We've been killed just because they're Druze, without any looking at anything else. Just because you are Druze, then you're subject to killing, to rape, to torture, to being burned alive. Like being burnt, we're literally now like witnessing the Holocaust, as you can see. You don't need concentration camp. Actually, Sweida turned to be a concentration camp. It's under siege. There is no water. There is no food. There is no baby formulas. The hospitals turned to be just inventory places for curbs. Nothing more. Everything is like we lack everything. We lack everything. The only supplies Druze are taking in Sweida are thankfully the IDF airdropped supplies, and so-called so-called convoy of supplies from the Red Crescent. I'm not sure how you that, but anyway, yeah, exactly. This is the case. We are in the new Holocaust. This
It's
is
a
the situation.
it's tragic. It's tragic because so much of it was caught on camera and it was filmed on purpose. Just to see these stores, not only were they looted, but bodies laid in their own blood. I want to ask you about the leadership of Syria. We know Western countries, including the United States, have been working to normalize ties with Syria recently as the new president came into power, but his government forces were the ones that took part in this massacre against the Druze people. What does this indicate to you?
Once a terrorist, always a terrorist. This is a fact. Um, we were, and the United States leadership, and even the friends in the Arabia, were thinking that they can simply convert Abu Muhammad al-Julani, the head of ISIS, the head of Al Qaeda, of HCS, to make him Ahmad al-Shara. I'm not sure, given the current situation, if that actually happened. Um, when you have all these troops being labeled and carrying allowed the flags and the symbols of ISIS, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they really succeeded in doing that. With more than 1,000 killed, tortured, burned alive, I don't think so. Will that continue forever? I mean, the only leadership in the whole that stood beside the Druze people is the leadership of the state of Israel, and we are very thankful for that. We are very thankful. At least there is somebody who can who listen to 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 the tragedy and try to minimize the impact. It's a lot. It's really a lot. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. To be honest, I don't know what to say. It's like this moment where you have nothing to say. Just like, look what's going on. This is too much. American citizens, British citizens, French citizens, you are dealing with ISIS. The Druze sect is fighting ISIS on behalf of the whole world, on the whole world, and we're not allowed to cry. We're not allowed to cry. We should be silent while being burned, while being murdered, tortured, raped. We can't. We can't take it. I mean, the Druze is a small religious minority. You know that in Israel. You know that in Israel. We're a small religious minority. Having more than 1,000 people killed from a minority is existential. It's
Absolutely.
existential.
Absolutely. And you
And
know, so many
I mean,
Druze in Israel specifically have said, Ghassan, that it reminds them of October 7th to see these bodies laying on the street, to see, you know, the murders, the executions all caught on camera. It was so reminiscent of the way in which Hamas conducted themselves on October 7th. I want to ask you about your background. You're a Lebanese Druze. You're not Syrian, but you have a connection. Explain to our viewers the connection between Syrians that are in Lebanon, to Syria and Israel. Why are you guys so connected? Why are you one? Why do you feel for one when the other one is hurting so much?
so there is these family ties, like my last name. There is more than 2,000 people in Syria who have my same last name. These are families that are spread within Lebanon, Syria, Israel, some Jordan. So that's family ties, that unity in faith also. We believe in the same doctrine, we believe in the same faith, we share that faith. There is a very important shrine for us in the state of Israel, in Hattin, Prophet Jethro's shrine. This is a personal dream for me to visit the shrine of Jethro. I can't because of the stupid animosity between Lebanon, my country of birth, and Israel, which needs to be stopped, which needs to be done, because we're done with that. Especially after what happened, I don't think there is any Druze in the whole world that now can think about Israel as an enemy. On the contrary, I'm hearing some voices that are actually asking for more help from the state of Israel, because it looks like we've been abandoned by everybody, and when you've been abandoned by everybody, it leaves you with limited options. And we wanted peace. We want more than peace. We want more than peace, because um, the only authentic ally for the minorities in the Middle East, it looks like, is the state of Israel. Now, I would like to thank President Trump for recently, talking with Prime Minister Bibi about like the importance of, protecting the minorities. There's something going on in the Congress about a law to be passed about protecting the minorities in Syria. Hopefully, this happens quickly, because if it doesn't happen quickly, then I don't know if there's anybody to celebrate and to benefit from that law. It's really existential. Imagine that small religious minority having to fight the harshest, the most poisonous militants from ISIS, and these are elite militants. We're talking about thousands and hundreds of thousands of militants of ISIS terrorists coming from all over the Arab region to murder, torture, and kill the Druze. Now, guess what? One of the terrorists that was captured by the freedom fighters said, "Hey, we were recruited on the basis that when we finish with Sweida, we're heading to Jerusalem." So um, actually, actually, in a way, our bodies, our innocent people, are being, the first edge against those terrorists coming
Wow.
to the state of Israel.
You said the
So
first line of defense before,
yes, yes,
before it gets to Israel. I will say there's
unfortunately,
a
unfortunately, yes.
I will say there is a comparison here in Israel that some Israelis can draw a parallel to the situation in Syria. And that's back in 2005, where Israelis were forced to leave the Gaza Strip during the disengagement. And the Israelis that lived in the Gaza Strip, in those communities, those settlements, said to the Israeli government, "You need to trust us. The minute you pull us out is the minute terrorism will flourish inside of this enclave." And 2 years later, Hamas violently got themselves elected as the governing party inside of the Gaza Strip. And some Israelis feel like this could be the comparison of what is happening in Syria. There are so many Syrian Druze that are warning the minute this new president comes in, it could just, take over again in terms of becoming a regime. Have you spoken specifically with people in Sweida in recent days? I want to know how they can pick up their lives and start again and continue their life. How does one even do that after their community was so attacked like this?
We've been in continuous collaboration with the people in Sweida. We've been on like minutely basis, on hourly basis, with everybody in Sweida who have internet, because the regime forces are cutting communication. Everything, like we're counting on foreign, communication ways to be in touch with our families there. Um, what can we say? It's just the disaster. It's just the Holocaust, and everybody is trying to manage how to live, just how to exist from one day to another. Um, the community is coming together, but with very, very, very limited resources. Very limited resources. And again, they are living on the airdrops by the IDF and by your Air Force. They're living by the very, very small support that is able to, because the regime forces are besieging all Suwaida from all sides. So our only survival way is what the IDF airdrops by the helicopters and others, and our only cover is the Apache helicopters of the IDF. Other than that, we're facing Scud missiles, we're facing heavy artillery, we're facing tanks, of the so-called Syrian army. We're facing all these, fighting back with the minimal weapons, minimal weapons. We're talking about hunting guns. We're talking about AK-47s,
Yeah.
fighting against a full, and this is too much. This is not equivalent.
Yeah.
You can't do that for long. So we're just
Ghassan,
existing as much
y-
as we can.
yeah, Ghassan, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your really critical perspective at this time. It's important that we continue to, bring people on like you and other experts and analysts and people who are Druze themselves to talk about what this is really like. So thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I couldn't be very analytic. I couldn't be very analytic. I'm usually not in, but now I'm there. Like I'm there. I'm inside this Holocaust. So
Mm,
I apologize for the viewers if I wasn't very analytic, but just trying to say the truth and only the truth.
yeah,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate that. Thank you so much. And the American citizen that we just spoke about was one of the victims inside of Sweida. He was rounded up by the government forces there and executed in the Druze city of Sweida alongside his family members. He is identified as 35-year-old Hussam Saraya, an American Syrian and part of the Druze community. Like I said, living in Sweida. Family members were in the home with him when 8 of them were taken outside and they were executed. All of it was caught on social media. There were, of course, officials inside of the United States who have already calling this heartbreaking, and state officials also saying they're working with the governor to touch base about what happened there. And this morning, Israelis in Tel Aviv and communities outside of the city woke up to sirens sounding around 5 a.m. after the IDF detected a ballistic missile launch by the Houthis from Yemen. The IDF did confirm it was successfully intercepted, but this attack comes just one day after Israel struck a strategic port of the terror proxy in Yemen on Monday, using drones to conduct it. The defense minister also confirmed it, saying it was in response to the recent Houthi drone and ballistic missile attacks. Joining us now to discuss this and the front and side of Gaza is Colonel retired Dr. Jacques Neriah, a special analyst for the Middle East at the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
First off, I want to ask, how do the Houthis still have these capabilities after the IDF struck these targets on Monday? Is the IDF hitting weapons caches where these ballistic missiles lie?
Well, let's remember the topography of Yemen. Yemen is very similar to Afghanistan. It took the Saudis more than 5 years to fight the Houthis in order to understand they couldn't be able to defeat them. I think that the same conclusion came to the American the task force there, because I mean the Houthis are all over the northern part of the country, and they are well entrenched there. They are well organized, even though we think that they are primitive people. They are not. They are very sophisticated concerning their weapons, and their lifeline extends to Iran, with most of their weapons being transferred by Iran through the sea or through the territory from Oman and elsewhere. So I think that the Houthis are so much, in a way, their ideology is so difficult to understand, because they are fixed on two things: death to America and death to Israel. This sums up their ideology, and they say very bluntly, very openly, as long as the war in Gaza continues, they will be continuing firing on Israel, and if it stops, they will stop. And this is the case. I think that the Air Force, with all due respect to Israeli Air Force and all the attacks that we have done in Yemen, Hodeida and other ports, it will not bring the Yemenis on their knees, and they will not raise a white flag and try to compose with Israel. No, this is only a dream.
Could they get stronger, though, in time, as Israel's focused on other fronts around them, of course, specifically Gaza, which we will get to in a minute, but could the Houthis get so strong that it could be a serious threat, something similar to Hezbollah in the future?
Well, they are already a militia, but they are limited to Yemen. Yemen is a huge country, and they're not able to expand on that. They are only there where their fellow tribes are there. It's the northern western part of Yemen. And I think that they are already very well organized. And the thing is that right now you're saying that we could see a development in the future concerning the missile strike force. And these missiles right now are being intercepted by Israel, and Israel has found the response for that. But we know that with Iranian intervention, those missiles could be very tricky and very difficult to intercept. Let's hope that we don't reach that. And if we have enough information, enough intelligence, we should hit as soon as possible and as far as possible the launch pad where the Houthis are trying to organize and send their weapons against Israel.
I want to turn to the war in Gaza. We know troops are operating inside of Deir al-Balah for the first time. How significant of a development is this? Is this really a way to put pressure on Hamas into making a deal?
Well, we've been living on that saying that under military pressure, the Hamas will yield. Well, we've seen that at the beginning of the war, saying that the Hamas leadership is retreating to Gaza. Then from Gaza, they went to Khan Yunis. From Khan Yunis, they went to Rafah, and from Rafah, they went to the Mawasi. And I think that we are living a situation where there's no way. I'm sad to say that. I think that Israel is not able to defeat the Hamas to the last fighter of Hamas. This will not happen. Look what's happening in Samaria and Judea. I've been fighting there Hamas for years, and they're still there. So what do you expect in a place where the population serves as a hub for all those terrorists, and they hide behind this population? You don't expect them to come to Israel and say, okay, let's surrender our weapons. I think that we are living a war of guerrilla, and it will continue as long as this war is conducted as it is today.
Yeah. I want to just quickly speak about, we don't have much time, but a Hamas official is claiming to Al Jazeera that 20 people in Gaza died of starvation just in the past 24 hours. But American officials are still waiting for Hamas to respond to the proposal that was given to them last week in negotiations for a hostage and ceasefire deal. They were given this last week. They still haven't responded. And an American official said to Axios this week, every single day Hamas waits and does not reply, more of their own people are dying. What is Hamas's strategy at this point in time?
Their strategy is to sacrifice all those in order to get their political goals. From the beginning of the war till now, Hamas has not changed its goal. I mean, it says, do you want to back your hostages? Okay, stop the war and retreat, withdraw from Gaza. And this position has not changed from the very beginning. And now, if you know that at the time Lenin or I think that Lenin or Trotsky said, in order to make an omelet, you have to break the eggs. So this is what Hamas is doing. Just sacrificing those kids and sacrificing the people there in order to get their ideological goals.
It's tragic. It's beyond tragic to see these children's faces begging for food and to hear people are dying. And of course, the Israeli hostages that are still being held there as well. Jacques, thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome.
And here on ILTV, we want to remind our viewers we have a 24/7 app that you can go to. You can scan the QR code that you can see on your screen right now. That'll be a way for you to see all of this exclusive content and continue to support our independent journalism. But not only that, keep up to date on everything that is happening in the Middle East. That is a wrap here on ILTV on the Hour. Thanks so much for joining us as we continue to follow all of the news that comes out from Gaza to Syria to Lebanon and beyond. Thanks so much. See you soon.